When Hugh Jackman isn't serenading Rupert Murdoch at parties, he tends to be one of my favorite actors to follow. While he is part of some mediocre films like the majority of the X-Men series or The Greatest Showman, he tends to be the best part of those movies. And his latest film, The Death of Robin Hood, was one that was immediately on my radar simply because of his presence. Director Michael Sarnoski also got me intrigued in this film, though. His previous film, Pig, was one that I really enjoyed, and I think The Death of Robin Hood feels like a natural successor to that. This movie follows an aging Robin Hood, played by Jackman, who does not resemble the legendary deific outlaw in any way beyond his name. He's violent and miserable, and people are trying to kill him to get revenge. Robin reunites with Little John, played by Bill Skaarsgaard, to partake in a battle that he wants to be his last. He's aiming to die in this fight. But despite his wounds and wishes, he finds himself at a monastery run by Sister Bridget, played by Jodie Comer, and raising John's daughter. Immediately by the marketing of this film, I was worried it would be the kind of thing we've seen a million times, one that tries to take a John Wick-style story about an old action hero having to redeem himself and return to the world he tried to leave behind. And that's definitely something this film does, but it goes in a completely different direction as it goes along, and it really sets itself apart from that trope. Again, going back to Pig, Sarnoski has done something similar to this, where Pig kind of feels like a John Wick film, but about chefs instead of assassins. But similar to that film, The Death of Robin Hood really becomes so much more as it goes along. It does still deliver on that premise of an aging Robin Hood returning to battle, and it is really brutal and satisfying. But after the first 30 minutes or so, it becomes something quite different and unexpected, exploring the idea of legends and their distortions of truth, and how that truth influences the legends themselves. I really enjoyed this meditation on the idea of legends and deifying people and how that influences them to actually live up to the legendary status, despite their legendary status being built on lies. The film does a great job of exploring this idea through the character of Robin Hood, and Hugh Jackman is excellent in the role. It genuinely might be my favorite performance of his, and he brings so much variety to his performance. He's able to encompass so much brutality and pain, but then as the film goes on, he brings a level of thoughtfulness and remorse, and I think the journey that he goes on throughout it was really quite engaging. That being said, there are some pacing issues, and the actual narrative structure of this film is quite bizarre. It lulls in the middle, intentionally so, as a way to demonstrate the peace that Robin feels in his new life at the monastery, but this slowing of the pace, despite it working to communicate the idea that the film is going for, I'd be lying if I wasn't a bit bored, and I did doze off at one moment. The supporting cast was full of surprises. Skaarsgaard's Little John, although he's not in the film a lot, provides for an excellent establishment of what Robin's past looked like, and creates a situation that demonstrates just how dark their past was together. Jodie Comer is somebody I love pretty much in everything she's in, and she was really compelling as Sister Bridget, and I found myself wishing that she had a bit more screen time. The restraint with which she performed some horrific grief was incredible and informed moments that happened previously really well. And in coming to terms with this grief stemming from a realization that happens later in the film, Bridget really exemplifies the importance of forgiveness for a character who is so used to resolution through violence instead of reconciliation, that being Robin Hood. And kind of going off of this a little bit, Noah Jupe is in the film, and he plays a young man who's trying to get revenge on Robin. He shows up at the monastery not knowing that Robin is who Robin is, but figures it out eventually. But ultimately, that conflict is resolved, and Robin changes that character's mind through discussion as opposed to violence. And I think these ideas really are the heart of the film. The idea of needing a new kind of conflict resolution, or Robin needing a new kind of conflict resolution as opposed to a violent one, both in being forgiven as well as simply sitting down with his would-be assassin. In doing this, Robin puts an end to the cycle of violence that he took part in for so long. This is a really cool idea, and one that I think plays with the trope of these kind of John Wick films very well. And I'm glad it wasn't explicitly established. There wasn't any kind of monologue or anything. It was, subtle and left up to interpretation as opposed to being explicit like that. Again, this is really communicated masterfully through the collective performances, but also through the direction. Sarnoski really has an eye for capturing small character moments and performances alongside grand landscapes. The film looks incredible, especially the lighting. And during the first half, before it goes to the monastery, the dreary, misty countryside creates a sense of misery that is counterintuitively claustrophobic and inescapable. The perpetual fog and Robin's almost manic depression and anger is juxtaposed really beautifully with the comfort and the bizarre openness of the monastery, despite it being relegated on this island. But Robin is literally told, walk as far as you'd like, by Sister Bridget. And this shows his newfound freedom that he gets after he has given up his past and his previous identity. Beyond this, though, I don't really have a ton of thoughts on the film. I definitely check this one out in the theater if you can. Hugh Jackman is excellent. I love the whole cast, and it really does look incredible. And I think the perspective it establishes on the deification of legends and how that's influencing them, and how the lies they've told to create these legends can actually come back and impact them after the fact is really, really excellent. Hugh Jackman, again, is incredible, although it would be cool if he stopped hanging out with Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, something that I just found out about while making this video, but that's beside the point. I'll give Death of Robin Hood a 7 out of 10, but definitely check it out and decide for yourself, because I think there are a lot of conflicting perspectives on this movie, and I know a lot of people aren't enjoying it. Thanks for watching. Follow me on Letterboxd. My Letterboxd is Finn Kingdom, and thanks for watching the video. Subscribe if you want to see more.